Yes, guys, what's happening? And welcome back to the channel and welcome to this evening's live stream for the preview of Middlesbrough versus Chelsea in the FA Cup quarter-final tomorrow evening at the Riverside Stadium. And a place at Wembley awaits the winners. Chelsea's second trip to Wembley of the season could be on the cards. But there's plenty more to get stuck into as well. Reaction to that Champions League draw against Real Madrid in the quarter-finals, plus the deadline for bids to buy the club is coming up in about an hour's time. So people have got an hour to get their bids in. So plenty going on as always. But before we get into it, guys, please make sure you smash a like on this video and please do subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate all of your support. So please do those two things. George, before we get into the FA Cup, obviously, I talked about the draw a little bit earlier. I'd love to get your thoughts. Quarter-final, we're the first one drawn out, the ball pot by Michael Silvestre. And it's a rerun of last year's semi-final, Chelsea versus Real Madrid. Obviously, Carlo Ancelotti and Eden Hazard both returning to Stamford Bridge. What are your thoughts on that tie? Was it like happy with it, or would you have preferred something else?
Yeah, it was funny because I was at work and I actually completely forgot about the Champions League draw. And a colleague of mine said, we've just done the practice run and we've got Real Madrid. And I thought, well, you know what's going to happen then? We're going to get Real Madrid in the actual draw. And lo and behold, out comes the ball. First leg at home. Look, I think it's not the easiest of draws. Definitely isn't, particularly when they've knocked out one of the supposed favourites in PSG. I think a lot of people thought that PSG might be one of the sides that go a little bit closer this year. But it's also not the best Real Madrid side in the world. Yes, they're playing well in the league and they probably will win that this year. Benzema looks in decent form and they have got players that we know very, very dangerous. And let's be honest, we beat the Real Madrid side over two legs last year, but it wasn't easy. And we were, well, arguably we were in a lot better form than we were going into supposedly this tie now. So look, it's not the worst draw in the world. We avoided Liverpool and City, which was the main thing, and we can do it over two legs. But I do think it's going to be a tough ask.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. I mean, just brought up Thomas Tuchel's thoughts on the draw. Said a tough one. A challenge cannot be much harder than playing in the Bernabeu with spectators. There is also big excitement around this fixture, and it's a massive fixture. You know, obviously last year, as you said, we had the situation where I don't think there was any fans.
No, we didn't. We played at their training ground, I think.
Played no fans, and we played at their training ground as well because they are having redevelopments at the Bernabeu. Madrid were obviously, that was a bit of a transition season under Zinedine Zidane that season. You know, Carlo Ancelotti's come in. They're doing a lot better. They're 10 points clear at the top of La Liga. Got through against PSG despite realistically only being the better side for probably about 20 minutes of the whole two legs. But that's kind of all it takes. And it's going to be really tough. Benzema in outstanding form, but obviously a lot can change between now and sort of the 5th and 6th of April. Injuries, etc., form. Madrid's Benzema is injured. They're hoping to have him back for that first leg. That's the aim. But if he were to be missing, that would be a big plus. But it's all kind of ifs and buts at the moment. But it's a fantastic tie. And this might surprise you, George. I'm going to bring it up on the screen now, mate. That actually in their entire history, Real Madrid have never beaten Chelsea in a major competition. 2 draws and 3 losses. So we obviously we meet again. But obviously these things have kind of all got to come to an end. But it is a fantastic tie. It really is. And it's one that I'm very much looking forward to. This is a little bit presumptive, but I just want to get your thoughts going ahead. Obviously, if we were to get to the semi-final, we'd be facing the winners of Manchester City or Atletico Madrid. You'd obviously presume that it'll be Manchester City. No disrespect to Atletico Madrid, but, you know, City you would fancy to strongly go through, although Atletico have got it in them to cause a bit of an upset. A semi-final against Manchester City, how would that sit with you? I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than that, does it?
No, and you know, it's funny, really. You've got the same sides that are in the mix that we had last year. You know, Manchester City, we faced Atletico Madrid, we faced. So our path's going to be fairly similar. I am worried about that one. I think if we were to get past Real Madrid, I think City just have an extra hunger and desire to break that mold of again getting to the final. And I think we said it. I don't know if we said it on the show or off air last year when we won it. We do think that if City get to the final again, they won't make the same mistake twice and they'll go on to win it. So look again. I watched the preview show after work, and you're right. I think once you get to those stages, particularly the last four, it's anyone's game. It doesn't matter. About form almost goes out the window because that's when the pressure's built up. City, again, the pressure will mount because the expectations are so high for them to deliver. It's Pep Guardiola's main reason why he came to the club, to deliver that trophy. He's been there for what, 5-6 years, something like that, and hasn't won it yet, and only reached one final. So, and speaking of Grand National Day, we're a big stayer. We've got the stamina in this competition. We've got the form, and you can't rule us out. And I almost like the fact that Chelsea are never considered as the favourites, or people look at them as, oh, no chance, because they said that last year. So look, there's some interesting ties. You've got to beat the best to win it, and I just don't know. I hate to be negative, and I'm probably the negative out of us two for sure. But I just think, it's a tough ask to beat Real Madrid and City.
Oh, yeah,
but
of course it is.
Let's keep the faith.
I definitely believe, it's something about this competition, this group of players, Thomas Tuchel in knockout football, the fact that the whole world's against us, everything that's going on off the pitch. It's just like when you see Jorginho coming out and saying things, this group is special, it's even closer than it has been in the past. You just think, do you know what? You wouldn't bet against these boys to do it again. But as you say, you are right. It's a massive ask. Even just to make the final, I'd be absolutely delighted. But just your thoughts very briefly on the other side of the draw. You're probably the two sides that you would have wanted beforehand. You've got Liverpool against Benfica and Bayern Munich against Villarreal. Villarreal obviously doing well under Unai Emery, a great win against Juventus 4-1 on aggregate. But if we're being honest, George, it's going to be a Liverpool-Bayern semi, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Liverpool have almost got into the final. Wow, that's my prediction anyway. I think Liverpool. I know a lot changes because the way the league's going at the moment. What's their priority now? And again, a tough ask on physical demands. They've lost Trent for a bit, so that's going to come into the fold. But you are looking at Liverpool Bayern one side. And then we don't know our one, but you'd presume City will have too much for Atletico. So it's going to be. I think it will be a great final. Whoever gets there, and let's hope that we make it. But just imagine. I am looking forward to the tie at the Bernabeu because in my whole life I've never seen us play at the Bernabeu. So
no, I haven't seen us play there either. Obviously, as you said, we were at the training ground last time because they were doing the renovations and stuff. So yeah. It's a fascinating, some great ties in there, and the road to Paris is fully laid out. Moving to matters off the pitch, the deadline for prospective bidders to submit their offers to the Rain Group, who are overseeing all the offers on behalf of Roman, is tonight at 9 p.m. So those are coming in. People who haven't got long to submit their offers now. It's like submitting your bloody homework assignment, isn't it? Get your bids in, guys. And there seems to be, I don't know how much you followed this, mate. I mean, I've not been across it fully 100%, but there seems to be, a lot of interested parties, but the front runners seem to be the Todd Boehly consortium, which is made up of himself, Jonathan Goldstein, another businessman who ironically is a Spurs fan. I don't know how much that really matters. And obviously backed up by the Swiss billionaire Hans-Jörg Weiss. He's quite old. He's 86. That's a three-man consortium there. We've obviously got this Saudi media group who have got heavy backing. And there's obviously the Ricketts family as well, a guy that owns the Chicago Cubs, but it's come out that people in his family have kind of made some dodgy comments in regards to kind of race and religion in the past. So a lot of Chelsea fans were very quick to jump on that. And another one that's come out in not so long ago was the fact that former Chelsea defender Tal Ben-Aim is fronting up a bid by a golf billionaire. We've also got a potential bid from JT as well as part of some sort of consortium involving NFT. So everyone's getting involved. Obviously, the deadline, as I said, is tonight, 9 p.m. More will be known over the weekend, start of next week. What are your thoughts on it, mate? Do you have a preference? Obviously, we've got to accept that we're not going to get anyone like Roman ever again. He was a once in a lifetime footballer, and a very unique, the best there's been. Absolutely superb. We're not going to get someone like him, and we need to realise that. But I guess for me, the most important thing is it's someone that wants to keep the club winning, wants the team to be successful, and has got plans to redevelop it and push the club forward. I mean, what's the most important aspect of things for you for new owners?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it has to be a Chelsea fan.
No,
that's the first thing. I mean, I don't like that someone's a Spurs fan. That's for sure. I don't, if I was interviewing some of these people, you're right. You just say, look, have you got the best interests of the club at heart? What are your priorities? Is it to, make the balance sheet okay, or is it to win trophies? Or I don't know. Some people are so analytical with the figures, and they are businessmen at the end of the day. But I think you've got to look beyond Chelsea being a business. I think you have to look at it as a club with heritage, a club with history, fans who care a lot about the club. And we don't want to go backwards. We want to be challenging. We want to have investment on the pitch, which we've been so blessed with for the last 20 years or so. But I guess I don't have a preference, but I just think the bottom line should always be there should be some responsibility from whoever takes over the club, that they have the club's best interests at heart. That is the bottom line.
Yeah, no, I'd 100% agree. That's the most important thing for me, and to show that they're ambitious, they want to push the club forward. I think a redevelopment of the stadium is crucial as well. As much as we all love Stamford Bridge, let's be honest, football's evolving. Times are evolving. We've discussed this before. Chelsea need a better stadium. I'm not saying we're going to move it. Moving site is virtually a no-go due to the Chelsea pitch owners. But we need to redevelop Stamford Bridge in some way to increase that capacity. And by increasing that capacity, we can massively increase revenue as well. So that's got to be at the forefront of some of the plans. And just to keep the club winning and successful, I just do not want someone to come in where they're just happy for the club to make money and they don't care about if we win anything or not. You see that with the likes of your Arsenals, with your Man United, with the Glazers and stuff. We don't want to be in a position where we hate our owners. We've never had that before. From us following Chelsea in our lifetime, we've never had a position where we hate the owners. So, I mean, I'm kind of resigned to the fact it's probably going to be an American consortium potentially, which, I don't have a problem with it. As long as they do what they say they're going to do, then I think it will be fine. But yeah, the sooner it can get sorted out, the better, because ultimately this is causing problems for the club. Not just financially, but also to the fans as well. Not being able to go to games is ridiculous. Not being able to sell tickets, etc. We need to get this sorted ASAP. So hopefully over the weekend, starting next week, we might know who the successful bidder is, and then we can get that processing, get them in place. Because the thought at the moment of having no fans for our Champions League quarterfinal is utterly ridiculous. So that's got to be sorted. But mate, let's move on to this weekend's game then. Obviously successful in midweek against Lille, through to the Champions League quarterfinals. We've covered that. Middlesbrough away in the Cup, FA Cup quarterfinal, one game from another trip to Wembley. Me and you both hate the semi-final being at Wembley. It kind of takes away from the occasion, but it is what it is. It's money at the end of the day. FA want money, so it's that's where we are with it. This is going to be a tricky one. I remember when we were on the channel doing the live stream of the draw. You were saying that you didn't want Middlesbrough. They've knocked out Man United and Tottenham in consecutive rounds. How are you feeling about it now? The game's tomorrow. How are you feeling, mate? This is going to be a tough one for me.
Yeah, nervous. I think this is going to be a bit of banana skin. Again, I hate to be cynical, but I do think that Middlesbrough are going to throw everything at this. And, for them, this is their Champions League final for them to get a place at Wembley to... they're going okay in the Championship. Their form's a bit up and down, but they're looking for playoffs. I think it's gonna be really close. I really do think so. I think Chelsea need to be at it 100%. We can't start like we did against Lille in midweek. Totally different type of game where it's going to be a very intense, physical. Crowd are going to be electric. Yes, of course, we've got the better team and we've got the capability, and we're very good in this competition also. But I did say if the one team I actually didn't want in the draw, it wasn't necessarily the Premier League sides, it was Middlesbrough. I just think there's one team every year that just seems to be a giant killer. And that run must come to an end at some point, even if they go on to win the cup. Very unlikely that they will do. But I don't know, mate. I think it's going to be very intense. I don't think there's going to be more than the goal in it.
No, it's certainly going to be tough. One thing that's going to make a big difference is the fact that obviously Middlesbrough is going to be sold out. The crowd's going to be rocking. It's going to be a big atmosphere in the Riverside, and due to these sanctions, instead of having 5,000 in the away end, which makes a big difference, we're going to have less than 1,000 there. Like, how much of a problem do you think that's going to be, mate? How big a part is that going to play?
I actually don't think. I think it would be worse if it was at Stamford Bridge and we weren't allowed any.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that affects the players. From what I've listened to from countless interviews where players, yes, okay, of course, in a final maybe they love the fans and they love the crowd, but really they get down to business. And once that whistle goes to kick off, they're very professional. I don't think they even hear it really. So yes, of course you want the fans there because, like we said, or we touched on earlier in the show, we're missing out at the end of the day in these big occasions. But I think eventually it depends how the game pans out, doesn't it? If Middlesbrough stay in the game or they get an early goal, we're right up against it. But if we can keep the ball for 5-10 minutes and just keep possession and quieten them down, I think then it becomes a bit irrelevant.
Yeah, no, I think certainly like in this sort of game where we are definitely a cut above the opposition, like perhaps not as much. Obviously, if we were going to like the Etihad or Anfield or something like that, then yeah, I think it would make quite a big difference. Yeah, it's going to have a small effect for sure, but I don't think it's going to be something that's going to make a difference between us winning and us losing. Very briefly, mate, what did you make of the club's request to try and get this game played behind closed doors? I thought that was a massive PR own goal from us. I sort of understand why they've done it in terms of wanting to perhaps try and put pressure on the government to sort out this ticketing issue, but that was a big mistake from the club. I don't know who signed off on that because Thomas Tuchel saying it's nothing to do with him or the playing staff. Someone in the board must have signed off to put that request in. And to be quite honest, it was a bit embarrassing, really.
It's amazing, isn't it, how you almost think of these places like Chelsea and whatever, these massive companies, that they're just so elite. Everyone in their job position's elite. And yet you hear or things come out that are so embarrassing that you wouldn't do in any other working environment. I mean, how many people does that have to go through channels for that to then be published and they give the green light and say, yeah, we'll put that out? I mean, it's the same as like the kit things. You've got Nike and making kits and just people in a boardroom thinking, yeah, that kit looks decent. Let's sign that off. Let's sign that off the chapter. We've done a really good job there. I honestly, it baffles me how that statement has gone out and that's gone through a number of people to sign it off. Embarrassing.
It is, and ultimately the right decision's been made. That's been kind of chucked out, etc. And it would be totally unfair because it's nothing to do with Middlesbrough. So why should they have no fans there? This is a massive occasion for them. You know, they. I mean, how often do Middlesbrough go to Wembley? Hardly ever, and they're one game away from going, and it's at home as well. Like it was ridiculous. It was really bad, particularly at a time where Chelsea's hated at the best of times. Particularly with what's going on now, everyone's just jumping on the bandwagon, absolutely hates the club. You don't need to give them more ammunition by doing that. So they over-signed that off. That was really, really poor. I'll tell you what else was poor was the comments. I don't know if you've seen them, the comments from the Middlesbrough chairman afterwards, basically saying that Chelsea and sporting integrity don't belong in the same sentence, etc. Kind of going in on the club a little bit. So, I mean, it's a bit ironic from him because he was someone that almost put Derby County out of business. So he needs to be careful with his words. And it kind of adds a little bit of fuel to the fire that actually, because he's come out and said that, I just want to smash his club and send them packing. Don't talk, down about us, about sporting integrity and us don't belong in the same sentence. Where were your comments for the last 19 years? If that's how you felt, don't just come out and say stuff like that when you've got, as I said, you always put Derby County out of business. So yeah, it adds a bit of fuel to the fire, and yeah, you just want to kind of put him in his place. But moving to the game itself, I mean, George, FA Cup, it's really big trophy, to be fair. Steeped in history. We've had great success in it. Unfortunately, we've lost both the last 2 finals. Domestic success, as we've touched on the channel many times before, for all the trophies we've won, domestically, we've not won anything since the 2018 FA Cup final under Antonio Conte. We haven't gone close in the Premier League since then. And as I said, we've lost the last 4 Wembley finals. So for me, it's absolutely crucial that we lift a piece of domestic silverware as soon as possible. And this represents a really big opportunity for us.
Yeah, it's definitely our best opportunity to win a domestic trophy this year. And the FA Cup's been a really important trophy in our history, and we've been very successful in it. And you mentioned that 4 finals or 4, opportunities at Wembley all missed. We don't want to get into this situation where we turn up to finals and we start bottling it because we second guess ourselves. We're a club that is better than anyone at just what, regardless of our form, regardless of what's happening in the league, we pick up trophies, and we've got to beat a championship side to get to Wembley semi-final. And then, 2 good results away, and we've done it. So we really do need to put those wrongs right. I know we've had some difficult ones, Liverpool, City in the League Cup finals were previous. That can be touch or go, penalties. But, the Arsenal one still hurts, should have won that one. The Leicester one, yes. But if you look back at it, really, we're still playing against Leicester City. We should be beating them over one match. So, yeah, it does hurt, but we need to put those right.
No, we certainly do. And it's great to know that obviously Tuchel today was asked in the press conference, are we going by plane? And we are. So that's good news. We're not going by bus. Tuchel doesn't need to drive the 7-seater. We're going by plane. So everything is going to be normal. In terms of going by plane to Middlesbrough. Mate, it's an absolute trek by coach.
Mate, that's economically friendly, isn't it?
It's about 5 or 6 hours. We don't go in a shitty coach and all cramped up and stuff. But you go by plane, you just get there in an hour or so, and you prepare for the game properly. This is not Sunday League, mate. We're not going up in the bloody coach for 5 or 6 hours. In terms of the team news for the game, mate, obviously Reece James and Callum Hudson-Odoi and Andreas Christensen are uncertain. They're in training, but not yet in full training. I believe today they did take part in full training. But Tuchel's saying there's still some checks to do. It's very tight. It could be a bit too close. Other than that, we've got a full complement to choose from. And George, the fact that it's an international break following this fixture, this represents an opportunity where actually Thomas Tuchel, if he wants to, and every indication in previous rounds is that he will, is we can field pretty much our strongest side available if we want to do so.
Yeah, and I had to think about this earlier, and if I was in Tuchel's position, I probably would, because of that whole premise that we've got an international break. He's got the luxury now of not having to think about the next game ahead. He can go into it and play his strongest side, and I would do. I think it would be a mistake at this point now. Chelsea have done it in the past where, we play our best team for the cup games. We have to rotate, but in this situation we don't. And Arsenal are a classic example of a team that would have won a lot more trophies had they fielded their best team and not looked at the next game. That the biggest game is always the game that's coming up next, regardless of what you think about it. And that's why Chelsea are so successful, because we always take it very seriously. And I would be fielding my strongest 11 for this.
I totally agree, mate. Obviously, there'll probably be a little bit of rotation because we don't want, to overload too many players. You fully expecting a back 5 again? Obviously, got it up as a back 5 on screen. It's kind of tried and tested under Tuchel. All the big games, particularly knockout games, it seems to be a back 5. Is that fully what you're expecting?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I think back 5 is spot on.
In terms of the goalkeeper, actually, normally it's a pretty straightforward selection because it's Edouard Mendy, but Kepa has played in all the previous rounds of the FA Cup. He played all the Carabao Cup games apart from the final. George, obviously, it's kind of what we think. Would you pick Kepa or Mendy for this fixture?
I go Kepa just because for that position, I don't think it's a massive step in class. They're both number 1 goalkeepers, and Kepa's played all the previous rounds. No reason why I wouldn't play this one. If we were talking about a final against Premier League opposition, then perhaps you go Mendy, but I think Kepa starts this one. Yeah, no,
I agree. I think he starts, and I'd pick him as well. But, I wouldn't be totally surprised if Edouard Mendy did start in the sticks. I really wouldn't be surprised. But for me, either way, I don't think it makes that much difference in this caliber of fixture. Moving on to the back three, then obviously we saw Andreas Christensen go off in midweek. Obviously, Rudiger and Thiago Silva are going to make up two of those three. For the third slot, George, would you be tempted to bring in Malang Sarr, or do you think continue with Trevor Chalobah, whose form has been a little bit indifferent in recent weeks, with a few mistakes creeping into his game? What would you do?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. Sarr's played a couple of the cup games so far that we've seen, so I wouldn't be surprised if Sarr did go in, to be honest with you. I think Chalobah, he's been drafted in. I don't know, he's been very 50-50 for me of late. He'll be fairly consistent and then make a quite a huge error. So I'm not sure if, I don't know. I think he could again be quite costly tomorrow. If it was me picking it, it'd be Sarr, but I don't know.
I'm tempted to go with Sarr. I mean, I think Tuchel will probably pick Chalobah, but this is our team. And I think Sarr has done pretty well when he's been called upon. I mean, if we're going to see Malang Sarr, it's going to be in this back three rather than at left wing back. I'll be very surprised to see him at left wing back, if I'm being totally honest. But yes, Sarr to play there, or it'll be Chalobah. But I mean, either or, I'm not particularly too fussed. But yeah, let's roll with Malang Sarr. Obviously, Reece James back in training, but as we've seen before, he was called up for England, so he could get some minutes there. We don't want to rush him back and he picks up another injury. Azpilicueta in good form with a goal in the week against Lille as well. This is too early to chuck Reece James back into the starting lineup, I feel. So, George, do you agree? And you think Azpilicueta for that position?
Yeah, we don't want to risk James, particularly in a game that's going to be quite physical. I think you just rest him for this one. Azpilicueta, like you said, good form. We need to be a little bit careful about that option, because thinking ahead about those Champions League ties and how important he will be if Reece James isn't fully fit. But at the moment we're limited on options, and he fits the mould.
Moving on to the left-hand side then. Obviously, Saul Niguez, who has played at left wing-back in recent weeks, is now out with COVID. George, we saw Kennedy play in the last round away at Luton, and he did okay, in fairness. Obviously, Marcos Alonso played in the week. I've got to be honest, he was awful against Lille, really poor. Do you think there's any chance that we potentially see Kennedy again?
Big chance. I don't think Alonso is going to play this game. I think he's going to go for something else. Naturally, it would have been Saul, but he's out. So this is going to be an interesting one for me. Again, I don't know. I wouldn't expect Sarr to go there, but he could perhaps play Sarr on the left and Chalobah in the back three as a potential option. If not, we could see Kennedy again. I don't know. Again, I don't risk Alonso just because we haven't got the options going forward in future games. We need Alonso for the rest of the season. So is he going to risk him in a game like this? But then again, tough one. Middlesbrough away in a big cup game. Is it really one to drop Alonso? I don't know. It's a tough call. So I'm glad I'm not manager.
I mean, Luton are actually higher in the table than Middlesbrough in the Championship.
Yeah.
I think Luton are in the playoff spot. So arguably, Luton are actually a better team than Middlesbrough, in league form. Obviously, the cup is slightly different. This is a tough one. I mean, obviously, I think Tuchel will probably go with Alonso. Mate, what do you think? Do you think Alonso just, or would you go Kennedy?
I mean, if I was picking my team, I would play Alonso, but I don't think Alonso will play tomorrow. But if I had to, I'd pick him because, again, I said best 11.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think the fact that Kennedy's barely played any football, he played against Luton, and he's not been. I don't think he's seen the pitch since. So it's a big big risk.
Yeah.
But I equally wouldn't be surprised if he was to play though. That's the thing. Moving into the midfield pivot, then we saw Kovacic, Jorginho, and Kante all start in the week in a 3-5-2. I'm not expecting to see that happen again. George, for me, one player that has got to start is Mateo Kovacic. I think he's our most important player in that midfield, one of the most important players at the club, one of the first names on the team sheet, really, for me at the moment. That energy he brings in midfield, he drives forward, he breaks the play up well as well, and he's got a good pass to him, and he's got a goal-scoring threat. He's so vital to this team, and when he doesn't play, you really know about it. And this is a big game. So Mateo Kovacic, definitely one of the two for me. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, not much needs to be said. I mean, he's, with all the talent that we've got around the pitch, he's going to be pivotal to how successful we are this season. If he's playing in the form he is at the moment, we need to keep him fit and he needs to play all these important games.
Yeah, I 100%. I definitely agree on that. In terms of the second slot, then this is a little bit more tricky. I felt Kante was poor against Lille, really not that good by his standards. Not a great performance at all from him. Jorginho's played a lot of football. I know he's had 2 fantastic assists, but apart from that, the performances from Jorginho against Newcastle and Lille were average at best and poor at worst. So, I mean, I'd personally love to see Ruben Loftus-Cheek get an opportunity in this game. I think, obviously, man of the match in the last round away at Luton. He's had to play at right wing back on a couple of occasions. He came on against Burnley, did it for a half against Norwich. We always go on about, just play players in their position and they'll do well. And we've seen that with Hakim Ziyech on the right-hand side when we go 4 at the back. And we've seen actually recently Christian Pulisic. Now that he's getting a run in his favoured left-wing position, he is actually delivering the goods and playing really well. And I think for Ruben, the talent's there. And if we can see him just play in that midfield position, then I think we could see him do something decent like he was doing earlier in the season. So I'd go Loftus-Cheek. But, I mean, George, what do you think? Do you think it's going to be a Jorginho or a Kante, or do you think Ruben's got a chance?
Oh, Ruben's got a chance, 100%. And we love Ruben. I think he's got something very unique that you don't see in a lot of footballers with his power and his ability to carry the ball. But again, it's whether he trusts him to start a game of this magnitude when we know that how physical that Middlesbrough are going to be. Not saying he's not up to the challenge, but is it easier to control the game first, and then when we're winning or we're in a strong position, then bring him on as a kind of luxury option? Again, it's our team, so I agree. I think give him the nod, give him a chance, see how he copes. He's got, probably our best player of the season to date alongside him. So why not? I think he's more than capable of handling himself in the middle of the park. It's just, when we're up against the cosh, does he make the right decisions? Does he hold the ball enough? Those finer details. But he's got the quality.
Yeah, no, that's a pairing that I would really like to see. So hopefully we see Ruben from the off. Moving to the front three, George. This is always where it gets tricky because there's so many options there. Timo Werner is not an option for me. I don't even think about him in the Chelsea squad anymore. Right hand side. Mason Mount and Hakim Ziyech were both on the bench in midweek. Mount came on and did very well. Superb assist for Azpilicueta. Ziyech didn't get a lot of minutes, and he's struggled for minutes since coming back from that injury he picked up in the first leg against Lille. So realistically, it's probably between those two for that right-hand side. I mean, I'd like to see Hakim Ziyech play and get some minutes and get some game time under his belt because he has shown in recent weeks his quality and what he can offer. But at the same time, though, it's a big game, and Mason Mount tends to play big games when big prizes are up for grabs. It's a real tough one here. Do you agree it's a toss-up between Mount and Ziyech? And who would you pick out of the two?
Well, my answer. For me, I would always play Mount in a big game because of the running he does, because of the intensity he plays at.
Yeah.
I think his game's just a little bit there at the moment. I think Ziyech was definitely in front of him before the League Cup final, but then since Ziyech's got injured, he's struggled to pick that form back up. And I think Ziyech's probably a type of player that you could bring on if we need something special or a delivery of a football, and he can change the game better than, say, if Mount was to come on. I think Mount's a better starter than he is coming off the bench than Ziyech. So I think that's a better option to start with.
Yeah, Mount does tend to play in the majority of the big games, as I said. What's RD saying? He'd go Pulisic, Havertz, Mount. Yeah, it's not a bad front three, that. And George, let's move on to the other two then. I personally feel in this game, it's maybe not perhaps what I would necessarily do, but I've got a strong feeling that Lukaku is going to play in this game from the start.
Oh, God.
I just think he will. He's not featured much recently at all, particularly from the start. Obviously, he came on against Lille. He was not great when he came on against Newcastle either. But, Havertz has played a lot of football. Yes, he's been playing very well, but he's played a lot of minutes recently. And we don't want to, burn these players out getting them picking up injuries with crucial games coming up. I mean, obviously, I'll get your opinion, but like personal opinion aside, do you think that there's a strong chance that Lukaku does start this game?
No, mate, I think he does start. I don't even think it is a question for me. If I was a manager, I would say, look, Havertz, you've been brilliant, you've been scoring goals, but you need a rest in this game, and we've got another player on the bench who needs minutes. You know, it'd be devastating for Havertz, who's been in such great form, to pick up a silly knock. And yeah, it's a big game. Don't get me wrong, because this is still our best chance to win a cup. But we're going into games against Real Madrid or those league matches without Havertz at the moment, we're really struggling. I mean, it's almost if Havertz is injured for the rest of the season, we don't get anywhere near Real Madrid or City in the Champions League. So why not give Lukaku? And Lukaku did score against Luton in the last round as well. So I think Lukaku starts this one.
Do you think then, with Lukaku starting, do you think that's Havertz definitely on the bench, or do you think that actually Lukaku through the middle and then Havertz would play on the left-hand side?
No, well, you're not going to agree with me.
Or do you think you would pick Timo?
No.
Yes, I would. Can't be, mate. How can we be sitting here and you're saying that you'd pick Timo? Jesus Christ! Have you seen him play in a Chelsea shirt?
But it's for the same. It's the same reason you're picking Lukaku. He needs minutes. I'm not going to risk. I'm not going to risk.
Mate, we can't be handing out minutes like it's a bloody raffle when we're a charity FC. Like Timo has been dog shit. Honestly,
yeah, but you've got it. Yeah, but you've got to think about the matchup, right? If Middlesbrough are going to go for this game, so there's going to be space in behind. We're playing away from home. Werner's got the pace. I'm not saying he's got the touch.
But he's useless on the ball, so that kind of cancels out him running in behind.
You say that, but his assists is still fairly high. You say that, but he still puts balls into the right area.
Mate, he's so bad.
Well, I know we don't have to put it in, but I'm saying
all right. Go on.
I think Lukaku plays and Timo plays. That's what
I agree that Lukaku will play. Let's pop him in. But mate, I can't honestly, as someone that isn't blind, I cannot put Timo Werner. I cannot put Timo Werner in a starting lineup. I'm sorry. He's a nice guy. He's just not good enough for Chelsea. It's as simple as that for me. He just really isn't. It's a must-win game, and in must-win games, we cannot be starting Timo Werner. Maybe he could do something off the bench, but
did he? I can't remember. Was it Luton? Where did he do well against Luton?
He actually scored. It was weird, right? He got a goal and assist. He got a goal and assist, but his performance was awful. Honestly,
that's what I mean.
Like it was weird. I can't put Werner in. In terms of left hand side,
going on the last round, I think he starts. I generally do, but I'm not. Obviously this is our team, so I'm happy to disagree with this one.
Who would you go with then? Pulisic or Havertz? Do you think? Because obviously both in great form. Go Pulisic up, mate. How impressed have you been with Pulisic's form recently? He's adding goals to his game. And he looks really sharp, and he looks like the player we actually paid that money for. And obviously, getting a run in his favoured position, that ankle injury seems to be fully behind him from earlier on. And for me, like a lot of players, he's a confidence player. And if he's in good form, we just need to keep playing him. I mean, how impressed have you been with kind of his response? Because let's be honest, he has been pretty poor.
Yeah, but I've always liked Pulisic. I've never really slated Pulisic because I just don't know. Yes, we see the potential, but I don't know why these Chelsea fans have this narrative of comparing him to Hazard and saying, he's got to be at that level. He's not. He's not that type of player. There's nothing wrong with having a winger who is a good footballer and doesn't necessarily chip in with all the stats. He's very intelligent. He's one of our better players on the ball, and I love his attitude in terms of games. Always gives it 110%. He's someone that can open the game up for us. You saw that with the finish. Great finish. And he's not, people say, I know, it's pretty much that everyone wants Werner out, but for Pulisic, still a lot of people 50-50 on the fence. Do we get rid of him? Yeah. Is he worth the money? For me, it's a no-brainer. I don't think he's even in my transfer list at all. I think he stays. Yeah, no, I agree, mate. A few months ago, I might have been like, maybe we should be looking to move him on. But now that he's kind of showing this form, I would definitely keep him for sure.
Let's bring this up quickly in the chat. Texas Blue, big up for tuning in as always. If you're going to play Lukaku, you have to have Cover and Ziyech. These are the only two who can give him the service he needs. To be fair, I wouldn't disagree with that. For as good as Mount is, and I know he's got a lot of goal contributions this season, I don't know if he can provide the service that Lukaku requires. So maybe Ziyech would be better on that right-hand side. Who knows? But, I mean, yeah, this George, just on Lukaku, I know he seems to always talk about him. If he is to start tomorrow, he's got to start taking these opportunities now, hasn't he? He's seen what Havertz has done. Like, he's seen the standard that's been set. When do you think the penny's going to drop with Lukaku that he needs to do a bit more? And, you know, this needs to start tomorrow. And ideally, he needs to get himself on the score sheet and just offer an all-round half-decent performance. Because ultimately, if new owners coming in and stuff, we don't know what the financial situation of the club is. He could be a big name that could be moved on.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying it for ages, and it's difficult as a striker because if you're not playing, it's very difficult to come on and make an impact if you're not playing. But he doesn't really have many places to hide. He was starting regularly at the start. He did start the season quite well. So it's not like he's never been in the team. I know he's had a big break now, but I mean, even we've done it. We've been guilty of it right now. We've picked a side that probably the other two servicing him, the guys right in the chat, doesn't suit him at all. So we're guilty of it. So you can imagine Thomas Tuchel, you know, people screaming at the telly and saying, well, if this is the lineup that happens tomorrow, again, where's the quality delivery coming from? Mount's not that type of player to deliver across from wide. Pulisic, again, the same. He tends to drift inside or cut a ball across, but it's not a Ziyech type quality football. He's not going to get any service from Azpilicueta on that right-hand side either. So you're looking at Kovacic or Alonso to put a ball in, which how many times is that going to happen in a game? He's got to start scoring goals. We know that, and we're just going to have to put up with it. But for me, I mean, I know I'm very almost can't think of the word now, but you know, I give, like you said, I'm contradicting because I give Timo so much like, oh, we can go with him, and then Lukaku I've given up already. But I'm just fed up with him, honestly.
Do you know what? It's a really difficult one because I think his record proves it. He's a world-class goal scorer. The goals back it up. The stats back it up. But for me, it's very system-based. Everything has to be absolutely right for him to do well. At Inter Milan, he was basically the main man. He was really good there. Fantastic. And he scored goals everywhere he goes. But for me, like, generally speaking, if I was thank God I'm not a manager, really. If I was a manager and, you know, we've just won the Champions League, our frailties are we need someone to put the ball in the net. And you're thinking, Lukaku's an option. You know, obviously Kane and Haaland, virtually impossible to do. You think, right, what's the next best on the market? Lukaku. And I don't think there's a single Chelsea fan that wasn't happy to see him come back. But, you know, 6-8 months later, it's looking like a massive, massive £100 million headache because the guy seems to only work in a certain system and with only certain players potentially servicing him. It's almost like it's becoming a massive problem and it's easier when he doesn't play. And I don't like to say that about players. I think Lukaku's really good footballer, but it's almost got to the point now where actually is trying to fit him in and make this work really worth the effort. I'm not sure.
It's difficult because again,
it's really difficult.
Even if tomorrow we said, right, let's get rid of him, who's available that we can bring in that's going to solve the problem? I get that, and I know, you know, my real opinions on Lukaku is that I honestly don't think he is world class. I'm sorry. I know sometimes stats, you know, can tell it all, but look, let's take Tammy Abraham as an example. He's bashing in the goals in Serie A now. I think that tells you all about that league. It's very different than the Premier League. And I know Lukaku scored a lot of goals in the Premier League for West Brom and Everton as well, and United for that fact.
Yeah.
But you're right. He needs everything going in his favour to work. And I just don't think with the counter-attacking team that we are, we're just not that sort of side who delivers balls into the box, and we're just not. I think he would be great for a team that just works the channels and plays in crosses all the time. Like I don't know what team I could think of in the Premier League, but just not us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So but then I couldn't even give you a name of saying, right, let's go in the market and they'll solve the problem for us. That's realistic.
Yeah, because we don't need a backup. We need like a full-on first choice. And with Lukaku, you know, I personally feel he'll stick around just because it was a massive investment. And, you know, if we were to move him on, we'd be taking a massive loss. Let's be honest.
Let's give it another season.
I think it needs to be given another season, another pre-season, potential switch of formation, new signings coming in, etc. I think it needs another season, but I really wouldn't be surprised if potentially he were to move on. But yeah, I mean, that's the lineup we've gone with for the game tomorrow. I mean, looks pretty decent on paper. As you know, football's not one on paper, but that's a side that's easily strong enough to get the job done. Only one thing remains, mate. Score prediction for tomorrow. Are you backing us to make another trip to Wembley? I mean, if we do get there, I'm not sure I can go because every time I go, we lose. So maybe I just shouldn't go.
Yeah, I'm the same, mate. Yeah, I don't have a great record at Wembley at all. I can't come on here and say I honestly, I'm not gonna. I can't even say it, but I think it'll be close.
Yeah.
Today, I thought Chelsea are probably going to. I think Chelsea are going to lose this one, but I'm not going to say that.
Bloody hell, mate! Jesus.
Well, I just think maybe I'm not going to deal with that on the channel. I'm going to say Chelsea in extra time. Is there extra time?
Yeah, well, yeah, because no replays in the cup now. It's just done on the day. I mean, that's the one thing we don't want, in my opinion, is extra time and penalties. I know it's an international break, doesn't really matter, but you just don't want to be going extra time and pens. We need to get this done in the 90. I agree with you that there's not going to be an awful lot in it in terms of goals. I think one goal in it, really. And for me, I think Middlesbrough will score. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to the Blues. What's this quickly? Just imagine Lukaku scores the win versus Madrid. Yeah, football's a funny game. All would be forgiven if he did that. So, you know, it is fine margins, but the goals have got to start flowing soon. But yeah, George, you've gone for an extra time win. I've gone for a 2-1 Chelsea win. And yeah, I think that seems like a good point to round out. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in live. Thanks for getting involved in the chat. It always makes it a lot more enjoyable for myself and George. So really appreciate you tuning in. As I said before, please do smash a like on this video and please do click that subscribe button. We are closing in on that 400 subscribers mark. We'd like to get there as quickly as possible. So please do help us out with that. George, enjoy that, mate. Pleasure as always. Guys, Chelsea take on Middlesbrough tomorrow evening, 5:15 kickoff. Hopefully we can make it a second trip to Wembley this season. Enjoy your weekend. Hopefully it's going to be a good one for us. And we'll catch you in the match reaction on Sunday, along with the FA Cup semi-final draw, which we'll bring to you live as well. So we'll catch you then. As always, up the Chelsea.